being believed, of being accused of being liars, of making the claims that you're making against...
When you hear the name Dr. Phil, you probably picture him calm and collected. But behind that famous mustache, a list of guests that pushed him to his absolute limit. Some lied to his face, others insulted him, and a few crossed lines that even daytime TV couldn't forgive. These 7 people weren't just memorable, they made him furious. From an entitled teenager who refused to change, to a guest who walked off mid-interview. These are the people who tested Dr. Phil's patience and failed. Stick around because number 1 will shock you. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly what went wrong and why these guests earned a permanent place on Dr. Phil's most hated list. When Shelley Duvall appeared on Dr. Phil in 2016, it was supposed to be an intervention, a helping hand extended to someone in need. But what unfolded was something entirely different, and Duvall never forgot it. In the interview, Duvall was clearly vulnerable and unwell. Instead of treating her with gentle care and concern, many viewers thought Dr. Phil was more interested in spectacle than support. The backlash was immense. Even Duvall herself said afterward that she had discovered the kind of person he truly is the hard way. Someone who appeared more focused on turning her trauma into ratings than on helping her. Critics called the episode exploitative and hard to watch, and Duvall agreed, feeling profoundly let down and manipulated. That's why this particular guest is one doctor Phil probably wishes he'd never invited on. Instead of boosting his show's credibility as a place for serious help, this incident revealed a darker side, one that left Duvall feeling exploited and angry. Every public statement she made after was laced with bitter regret. Her disappointment in the show wasn't quiet. It was loud and very public. Many of her supporters rallied behind her, and years later, Duvall is often cited as one of the most glaring examples of Dr. Phil crossing the line. The encounter tainted the doctor's image permanently, a lasting stain that all began with one tense, regretful episode that both of them surely wish had never happened.
Congratulations, you have dabbled in Broadway before, but this is your very first
And when it came to Dr. Phil's treatment of Shelley Duvall, they were anything but reserved. Farrow publicly condemned Dr. Phil, calling his handling of Duvall predatory and suggesting that putting a visibly ill woman in front of cameras wasn't help. It was exploitation. Kubrick was equally fierce, going so far as to call Dr. Phil's show lurid entertainment,
It means a lot. It was a
implying that ratings matter more than
and I got to be on
being's
stage with
well-being.
Patti LuPone.
This backlash was
and it was
personal.
a beautifully
Farrow
written
and
play
Kubrick
for
weren't
us.
just bystanders.
And
they
not
were
for us.
prominent voices in the entertainment industry who knew Duvall's history and respected her contributions as an artist. To them, the so-called doctor had crossed an unforgivable moral line, profiting off a woman at her most fragile. And they weren't alone in this fury. Many others piled on, but these two figures cut the deepest. In the months that followed, their scathing remarks circulated endlessly online and on entertainment news sites, ensuring that every time someone looked up that infamous 2016 interview, they would also see Farrow and Kubrick's very public accusations. Even if he never showed it on camera, this was one of those episodes that surely burned Dr. Phil inside. The way Farrow and Kubrick held him personally accountable felt like a direct attack, one that damaged his image forever.
When she appeared in Dr. Phil, Danielle was only 13 years old. Her mother accused her of stealing cars and framing her for a false charge. After being confronted by the crowd because of her bad attitude, Danielle said in that moment her life changed. She became a meme. There were remixes of her voice all over the internet. She started appearing.
Nightmare for the doctor. After the show, Bod Bobby was sent to Turnabout Ranch.
I guess what's good for you is I made you just like how Oprah made you. You were nothing before I came on the show.
Years later, she and others spoke up.
Thank you for that.
Conditions and serious mistreatment.
The internet since you were here, is that a good thing or a
Y'all don't know about my life or what I have going on.
Bad Baby posted controversial videos last week where her skin appeared to be a darker shade.
Catch me outside, how about that?
With the hope of getting some help to get her under control. After that, Danielle started her career as a rapper, and according to Danielle, she behaves the way she does because she doesn't know anything else. Danielle's father walked out from the family when she was only 3 months old. Danielle was only 4 back then, and she had to stay with her grandmother during Barbara's treatment. Her grandmother was older, so little Danielle had to learn how to do everything by herself. Danielle has opened up about being from 3 to 6 years old. According to the rapper, not many people know this about her. She thinks that all of her problems come from there. In Danielle's mind, there's always something negative that she has to deal with every day. For Barbara, even in the toughest times. But back then, Danielle tried to be the side to take her on.
In 2008, Britney Spears was going through one of the most difficult chapters of her life. Amid her public struggles, Dr. Phil decided to pay her a hospital visit. one that he probably thought would earn him points as a caring public figure. But what followed was an angry backlash from Spears' family, who felt that he was overstepping, exploiting her crisis for personal and professional gain. Britney's parents and sister made it clear they were furious. They felt blindsided and deeply betrayed by a man who was supposed to help, but instead went straight to the media. They blasted him for breaking confidentiality and using her mental health as part of his show. Every press release they put out and every quote in interviews had one thing in common. They didn't just dislike him, they genuinely hated what he had done to their daughter. That's why this moment is etched in Dr. Phil's history as one of the most serious PR disasters he ever faced. Even after Spears made a comeback and rebuilt her career, this bitter chapter remained a stain on his reputation. Her family never forgot, and their vocal anger ensured that nobody else forgot either. Every time someone brought up Dr. Phil's so-called caring persona, this story was right there to remind everyone of a very different reality.
She hosted Saturday Night Live in 2012, making this her first time on the show since
I'm not going to say that it hasn't, certain situations I would have preferred to have been handled differently.
Dr. Phil pressed hard. Too hard, according to Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay was livid with the way he handled her mother.
Nobody's
publicly
perfect.
calling him a phony who was more interested in creating
I love my
the set of Another World to star in
Lindsay
Disney's
made sure to
remake
call
of the
him out in
1961
interviews and on
family
social
comedy,
media.
The Parent
She was
Trap.
fiercely protective of her mom, and the public back and forth became nasty.
2006.
This studio feels like a home to me.
Became a drawn-out feud that painted Dr. Phil as someone willing to take anyone, even a fragile mother, and put them under a harsh spotlight. And Lindsay didn't just criticize.
I guess you and Mum kind of think alike because you both sent us to the same camp and we met there and the whole thing just sort of spilled out.
I, for one, am not crazy. I'm merely a grown woman trapped in my daughter's body.
Famous as Lindsay Lohan was furious with him. Whether he ever acknowledged it publicly or not, you can bet this was one guest who left
But her rise to stardom didn't truly begin until 2004, when the 18-year-old actor...
The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kim Richards has had countless personal dramas play out before the cameras.
Coming off of legal troubles and harsh public scrutiny surrounding her drinking,
She's battled demons over the last few decades, and not just the ones we've seen on Bravo. In the early 90s, Richards was engaged to commodities salesman John Collette, but on October 28, 1991, Collette was tragically killed.
He pressed her relentlessly about her addiction, peppering her with difficult, personal questions on live television. This was all happening while cameras were rolling.
After Kim accused Kyle of stealing her house, Kyle took their beef to the fight escalated to the point where the other passengers tried to intervene. Kyle called her sister demented and more, but something apparently clicked.
She walked off the set entirely. That moment set off a wave of backlash that was both swift and furious. Kim felt completely blindsided.
During the season 2 Real Housewives reunion special, Kim owned up to her alcohol problems.
Or to be berated.
I'm an alcoholic.
She had come hoping to speak honestly and take back some control of her narrative. But after the taping,
I
she had
drank.
the opposite feeling, or like she'd been manipulated into a spectacle. And she
The
did not
fallout
hold
from the
back when she
notorious
decided to
limousine
speak out.
fight led to a
Her tone
serious
was
rift
sharp,
between the two
her
women.
words were
In a blog post,
She
but all
publicly
hope
stated that
wasn't
she felt
lost.
set up by
In December
someone who was
2011,
supposed to help,
following the dramatic
someone who was
conclusion, the
supposed to
sisters did
listen.
eventually find their
Even
way
if she
back
chose
to a
her
good
words
place.
carefully and
Kim
individually,
admitted that the
one
treatment
thing
she
was very
received in
clear.
rehab helped her
She
become
had
a
lost all respect for him. That wasn't all. Even people who had followed Kim Richards' career for years,
better version of herself.
including fans
By the
and
end of
other celebrities,
2013, she told people
rallied behind
she had
her.
turned over a
They,
new
too,
leaf
thought
with her
Dr.
sister.
Phil had crossed a line.
Kyle and I really were able to put it together during this Christmas.
Simply to draw
In
ratings.
fall
He had
2024,
taken
however,
someone in a
Richards'
vulnerable
sobriety
state and put her
took a
through
hit.
an emotional
In September,
trigger
TMZ
just to
reported
create
that
a
Kim and
tense,
Kyle were at a Hilton
must-see
hotel
couple.
when Kim got out of
On
control.
social media,
Police were
people
called,
him
but
out by name, telling him he had gone too far. And the tension between them
she
never
refused to
really
leave when
disappeared.
asked,
In the
so the
months that
LAPD
followed,
arrested
whenever
her
Kim was
and took
asked
her to
about
a hospital
addiction,
where she was placed
recovery,
under
or celebrity
psychiatric
mental
hold.
health,
An
the
insider
subject of
told
her
people
Dr.
that
Phil
Kim's battle with
appearance
alcohol
inevitably
addiction
came
had
up.
caused a
Every
serious
time
rift
addiction
between
or
her
scandal
and her
appeared in
sisters,
entertainment
Kyle
news,
and Kathy Hilton,
someone,
driving
often Kim herself, would remind the world of that painful 2015
them to their
interview
breaking point.
and describe
The source
how
later that
exploitative
month,
it felt.
police were called to
It became
Kyle's
a
Los
permanent
Angeles
part of her
home where
story.
Kim had been living.
Just as
According to
importantly, part of
TMZ,
his.
Kyle told
That's
authorities
why
that the
in
family
so
wanted
many
Kim
ways,
to
Kim
leave,
Richards
in the
remains
hope
one
that
of those
cutting off
guests who
contact
really
would serve
loathed
as a wake-up call.
She made sure
Police
everyone
advised
knew
Kyle
exactly why. To this day, the bitterness of that encounter still lingers in every mention of their names together.
That she'd have to file eviction papers if she wanted her sister out, and left Kim in the house. Kim's periods of sobriety and full-on relapse have cycled back and forth for years.
Countless former guests have come forward to say that appearing on Dr. Phil left them feeling manipulated, exploited, and even deeply traumatized. Some of them were just looking for help. They thought going on a well-known show hosted by a famous TV psychologist would mean someone cared enough to listen. But they quickly learned that it often wasn't really about listening at all. It was about creating spectacle, pushing buttons, and crafting storylines that would keep viewers glued to their screens. Many walked away feeling like pawns in someone else's game. They weren't there to be supported, they were there to be stared at. From Todd, the former Survivor contestant who felt humiliated for ratings, to the so-called bum fights guy, who was treated more like a sideshow act than a human being with real struggles, the list of people who felt burned by their experience is long and troubling. Even fat acceptance advocates have spoken up over the years, claiming they were brought on to be mocked and judged under the guise of an honest discussion. They describe feeling trapped under harsh stage lights with an audience ready to gasp or laugh at their expense, all orchestrated to make a spectacle out of someone's pain. And these weren't quiet, behind-the-scenes complaints either. Many of these people went public, telling their stories on podcasts, sharing videos on social media, filing lawsuits, and doing interviews to make sure their side was heard. Every one of them believed that what happened on the show wasn't truly about help or healing. It was about ratings, entertainment, and chasing controversy to make sure viewers kept tuning in. Some described feeling ambushed by sensational questions designed to provoke an emotional meltdown. Others felt they were put into situations they never agreed to, manipulated into moments that would make good TV, but left them personally shattered once the cameras stopped rolling. That's why this entire category of former guests might just be what Dr. Phil hated most. A long trail of people who walked away not just disappointed, but genuinely resentful. They didn't simply disappear after their episodes aired. Many of them built their own platforms and gathered followers by telling their side of the story, creating an ongoing public conversation that kept their grievances alive for years. Every time someone else spoke up, it added fuel to the fire. More proof for those who already doubted the show's integrity. Even years after an episode first aired, they would go online to remind the world of their experience, posting clips and sharing personal stories that painted a very different picture of what was really going on behind the scenes. And so, in the end, these people became a vocal chorus of critics, ensuring that every feel-good success story the show promoted would forever be shadowed by the voices of those who walked away feeling manipulated, angry, and determined to make sure the world knew exactly what they thought of him. They weren't going to go quietly, and their resentment left a lasting mark, a permanent reminder that for every guest who appeared helped, there were others left feeling deeply used. Even if the show continued to attract viewers, those former guests ensured that a part of its legacy would always come with an asterisk, one that can never fully be erased.